Good morning and welcome to The World This Morning. We are here to deliver a sweeping view of the most pivotal shifts on today's global chessboard, where strategic rivalries between superpowers are escalating by the hour. From French President Macron's landmark diplomatic tour in Vietnam to a potential shift in the Ukraine war that could reshape the battlefield. From Russia's newly released buffer zone map to China's silent war strategy over Taiwan. From the re-emergence of a top Russian general to a nuclear warning from the Korean Peninsula. We'll unpack it all, connect the dots, and present the full picture in today's broadcast. Vietnam had just welcomed a European head of state, but this wasn't just a routine diplomatic visit, it was a strategic declaration. A major Western power is pushing for a third path independent of both the US and China, as it seeks to reposition itself in the fast-evolving Indo-Pacific order. Macron's tour isn't simply bilateral diplomacy. It is the opening move in the much larger regional alignment, offering Southeast Asian nations a way to assert more autonomy in a superpower tug-of-war. Meanwhile, across the continent, the war in Ukraine is entering a new phase. A bold statement from Europe has effectively unlocked unprecedented retaliatory capabilities for Kyiv, prompting an immediate backlash from Moscow. Red lines that had held firm for over 2 years are now being reconsidered or outright removed. Analysts note this isn't just a military shift, it's a message, one that says restraint is no longer working. At the same time, movement is stirring within the American political sphere. The man who once claimed he could end the war in 24 hours is now reportedly weighing a decision that could push the conflict into a radically different direction. Trump's shift in tone, even if still internal, is being closely watched by US allies in Europe and, most critically, by those on the front lines of the war. This could be the first time in months where both sides of the Atlantic find themselves in sync on how to deal with a war that has no clear end in sight. From Russia, the response is no longer limited to diplomatic warnings or retaliatory strikes. Moscow has now released symbolic images, a new security map, and warnings that have shocked many capitals into reassessing their own positions in the regional balance. It's a familiar doctrine, but this time scaled far wider. What was once a gray zone may soon become a new front line, reshaping the entire security architecture in Eastern Europe. After months of silence, a controversial Russian general, once at the center of intense loyalty debates within the Russian military, has re-emerged, but not in Moscow. According to Western intelligence, he was spotted at a diplomatic event in North African nation. His reappearance is raising fresh questions about his role in the post-Wagner power dynamics and signals that internal recalibrations in Russia are far more from settled. In East China, a military journal affiliated with China has published an article that is shaking defense circles. This isn't about total war, not about amphibious invasions, not even nuclear weapons. It's a strategy designed to completely paralyze an island nation using only a handful of well-timed precision strikes on critical infrastructure. Though not officially confirmed as state policy, the scenario has already been simulated and publicly released as a warning to both adversaries and observers alike. And finally, an alarming development from the Korean Peninsula. A new report reveals that North Korea now possesses enough fissile material to produce up to 90 nuclear warheads, a figure significantly higher than earlier estimates. Moreover, the report points to emerging technological links with another nuclear power, raising fears of an unofficial axis forming, one that could challenge global security norms and spark a new arms race. I'm Trinh Lee and you're watching The World This Morning. Stay with us. And we begin this morning with a high-level diplomatic event of strategic significance. From May 25th to 27th, French President Emmanuel Macron paid an official visit to Vietnam, his first trip to the Southeast Asian nation as head of state. More than a bilateral milestone, the visit signals Paris' intent to reshape its role in the rapidly evolving Indo-Pacific region.
France is striving to assert an independent role amid escalating U.S.-China rivalry. In Hanoi, Macron emphasized the importance of a third way, a balanced approach enabling nations like Vietnam to maintain strategic sovereignty without being drawn into the confrontation between the two global powers. During the visit, the two countries signed numerous agreements on renewable energy, green infrastructure, defense, and digital transformation. Notably, experts highlighted France's willingness to expand maritime security cooperation amid tensions in the South China Sea. A French diplomatic official stressed, Vietnam is a frontline state in the South China Sea and a cornerstone of France's Indo-Pacific strategy. Following Vietnam, Macron will visit Indonesia and Singapore, key destinations to build France's strategic network in a region increasingly becoming a global flashpoint.
The war map in Eastern Europe may be on the verge of permanent transformation, following a bold declaration from German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Speaking at a security conference in Berlin, Chancellor Merz announced that there are no longer any range restrictions on the weapons Ukraine receives from them. This unprecedented move effectively grants Kyiv the green light to strike deep into Russian territory using Western-supplied missiles.
This marks a sharp departure from the era of former Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who refused to supply Taurus missiles due to escalation fears. Now, with Ukrainian cities enduring thousands of Russian drones and missiles, the policy of restraint is giving way to a strategy of retaliatory deterrence. Merz's statement came days after Russia unleashed over 1,000 missiles and UAVs on Ukraine, highlighting the mounting pressure Kyiv faces. The Kremlin responded furiously. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov warned, "This is a dangerous move that will derail all current negotiation efforts." He added, "If such decisions are implemented, they completely contradict our desire for a political solution and ongoing efforts to achieve peace."
And it is not just Europe rethinking its strategy in the Ukraine war. The Trump administration is now weighing a major shift of its own. According to Western officials cited by the Kyiv Post, President Donald Trump is reportedly seriously reconsidering lifting all restrictions on how Ukraine may use U.S.-supplied weapons to strike back at Russia. Sources say Trump may go even further than the Biden administration by completely eliminating the limitations that had previously been in place, a move that would mark a dramatic policy turn for Washington.
Trump aims to end the 3-year Ukraine war by mediating peace talks, even considering certain concessions to the aggressor. However, with negotiations stalled and Russia continuing drone airstrikes on Ukraine, an official noted that current restrictions are under review. European leaders welcomed Trump's shift in tone. On Monday, French President Emmanuel Macron said Trump has finally realized that Putin is not seeking peace. Lifting all restrictions on Ukraine's counterattacks would align the U.S. closer to Europe's current stance. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz revealed, "There are no longer any range restrictions on weapons supplied to Ukraine by the UK, France, and the US." Germany previously supported Kyiv robustly, but withheld long-range Taurus missiles due to escalation concerns. Now, Ukraine can defend itself by striking military targets inside Russia, Merz wrote on X. Europe is seeking greater consensus as Russian attacks on Ukraine intensify, despite ongoing peace talks. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul, set to visit the U.S. soon, told Germany's Tagesschau that Putin wants to continue the war, adding, "There will be a response from the West, and I believe from the U.S. as well."
Beyond stepping up military support, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing a new round of tough sanctions against Russia, part of a broader effort to bring Moscow back to the negotiating table. According to Wall Street Journal, these new sanctions, expected to be announced within the week, may not directly target the banking sector. Instead, the focus is shifting to Russia's energy industry and its critical trade ties, particularly with China. In 2024, Russian oil exports to China rose by 50%, making Beijing a vital economic lifeline for Moscow amid ongoing Western sanctions.
The initiative aims to revive stalled negotiations, with the U.S. and allies previously demanding a 30-day ceasefire from Russia. However, Trump's later softer tone, urging Russia and Ukraine to negotiate independently, raised concerns in Kyiv. Analysts suggest the U.S. may target Russia's shadow fleet, which transports about 70% of its oil exports, often escorted by warships. This activity prompted Finland to warn of Russia's growing presence in the Gulf of Finland. Finnish Defense Minister Antti Häkkänen confirmed Russia has increased warship escorts for oil tankers, an unprecedented move.
In a dramatic response to growing Western military aid for Ukraine, Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev has unveiled a buffer zone map, one that he claims would stretch across nearly the entire territory of Ukraine. This announcement serves as a chilling warning about the scale and depth of the war's potential expansion, one that places Ukraine in an almost total encirclement and sends shockwaves through European capitals already on edge over the risk of an unprecedented regional conflict.
Medvedev released a video outlining the buffer zone's scope if Kyiv continues receiving military aid. The zone, marked in red, covers most of Ukraine's current territory, leaving only a small western region in green, with Russia in green. Posted on Medvedev's English-language Telegram channel, the video highlights Russia's repeated claims of needing a buffer zone to protect its borders from Ukrainian shelling and threats. President Putin has advocated for a resistance suppression zone since mid-2023, emphasizing this need in Kharkiv, Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk provinces in 2025. Ukraine's General Staff reported Russia's plans to establish a buffer zone in Sumy province, where over 200 localities have been urgently evacuated. Moscow warned that continued Western military aid only prolongs the war without thwarting Russia's goals. Medvedev's statement not only heightens tensions, but raises critical questions about Ukraine's future and European security, as the conflict risks escalating into a broader war with unpredictable consequences. 0.
In a surprising turn, British Defense Intelligence has reported that Russian General Sergei Surovikin, who had not been seen in public for months, has reappeared in Algeria. According to an update posted on May 27 via the UK Ministry of Defense official X account and reported by European Brada, Surovikin was recently seen in a photograph released by the Russian embassy in Algeria. The image was taken during the Victory Day celebrations on May 9th, with the general appearing in the role of head of a group of Russian military specialists.
This marks one of Surovikin's first public appearances since the failed 2023 Wagner mutiny led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the financier behind the Wagner Group. Prigozhin's June 2023 uprising accused Russian military leaders of betraying Wagner, advancing near Moscow before withdrawing after negotiations. Surovikin, a former commander of Russian forces in Ukraine and later head of Russia's aerospace forces, was known for his close ties to Prigozhin, particularly through Syria campaigns. Analysts suggest the Kremlin has long viewed Surovikin with suspicion due to his Wagner connections. His reappearance indicates Moscow still sees him as a strategic asset, despite his removal from official roles.
And in Asia, a newly published article in prominent Chinese military journal has sent shockwaves through defense circles by detailing how Beijing could potentially neutralize Taiwan in a matter of hours without ever firing a shot. The strategy, dubbed urban collapse warfare, outlines how the People's Liberation Army could paralyze Taiwan by simultaneously striking 30 to 40 of its most critical infrastructure points, including power substations, LNG terminals, healthcare networks, and internet hubs.
Published in the May issue of China's Naval and Merchant Ships, the article shocked defense analysts by openly describing a People's Liberation Army (PLA) scenario to disable Taiwan without a bloody amphibious invasion. The strategy targets 30 to 40 hypercritical infrastructure points, including power stations, LNG facilities, communication hubs, and medical networks. The article warns, hitting a few key points at the right moment triggers a domino effect, collapsing the entire national system. No power, no water, no communication, no hospitals, no will to resist.
The analysis goes further. If the PLA were to disable just 3 major power substations in northern Taiwan simultaneously, the article claims there is a 99.7% chance of a complete regional blackout. This would trigger cascading failures across transportation, hospitals, logistics, and digital infrastructure, potentially bringing the island to its knees within hours.
Taiwan, the article notes, is an ideal target due to its near-total reliance on imported fuel, highly centralized infrastructure, and vulnerability to natural disasters. Its advanced development and interconnected infrastructure make it more fragile if hit precisely, it explains. The PLA simulated this scenario in the April Strait Thunder 2025A exercise, targeting a mock LNG facility akin to Taiwan's largest, beyond guided missiles and cyber attacks. The article even mentions inducing natural-like disasters, such as landslides, to sever high-voltage lines.
The overarching concept is dubbed the butterfly effect strategy, where limited but well-timed and precise attacks lead to cascading chaos far beyond their original scale, potentially resulting in the total collapse of Taiwan's societal systems without the need for a full-scale invasion. Whether this article reflects an official doctrine or remains a theoretical analysis is unclear. However, in a climate where Beijing has intensified its rhetoric and military posturing toward Taiwan, this scenario of collapse without combat can no longer be dismissed as mere fiction. And we end today's program with a sobering assessment from the United States Congress. North Korea is now believed to have stockpiled enough fissile material to produce up to 90 nuclear warheads, a sharp increase from previous estimates. According to a new report by the U.S. Congressional Research Service, CRS, Pyongyang is thought to have already assembled approximately 50 warheads at its nuclear test site at Pongchiri, is reportedly ready to resume testing at any moment.
The assessment, published by the U.S. Congressional Research Service, CRS, in a detailed report on North Korea's missile and nuclear programs, cites non-governmental experts. Compared to last December's report, which estimated enough material for 20 to 60 warheads, the CRS significantly raised its estimate to 90. This is the first time the agency has specified the number of warheads North Korea is believed to have assembled. The report references the 2025 Global Threat Assessment by the U.S. intelligence community, warning that Pyongyang may be receiving Russian technological aid in exchange for weapons, accelerating its nuclear testing and deployment.
The global landscape today is one of mounting tension, stretching from Europe to Asia, from diplomatic back channels to the front lines of conflict. And now more than ever, the world must remain alert, united, and resolute in the face of geopolitical tremors that lie ahead. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again in the next edition of The World This Morning.